Recently leaked American government files reveal Washington, get this, covertly funneled hundreds of thousands of dollars through an NGO to youth groups in Nepal, all of a sudden before a violent coup in September. But why? Well, simply put, because of Nepal's close proximity to China and India. Let's bring you some footage here of the so-called Gen Z protests a few months ago. It erupted after authorities blocked access to social media platforms because the companies reportedly failed to abide by local regulations. Nepal's Prime Minister resigned a week after the violence began and was very quickly replaced by an interim leader chosen in an anonymous poll which registered fewer than 10,000 votes. But at the end of the day, the clashes killed 77 and thousands more were wounded. Well, according to the documents obtained by the Grey Zone, it's another classic case of arm's-length foreign meddling and regime change. It was the American National Endowment for Democracy, or NED for short, that operated inside Nepal and was behind the clandestine operation that sought to cultivate young national political activists to, quote, support U.S. interests. According to the news outlet's investigation, the NED had its eyes on Nepal's strategic locations so close to both China and India. So before we join our guest, here's a part of the leaked files, what the Grey Zone provided to RT.
Nepal's strategic geographic location between India and China makes the country core to the U.S. Indo-Pacific strategy. The U.S. vision for a free, open, and secure Indo-Pacific region involves all nations in the region being independent, strong, and prosperous. For Nepal to be resilient and an independent and strong country, strengthening its newly federalized system of governance and ensuring its federal and subnational governments are responsive to the needs of its citizens, youth in particular, is critical.
Well, let's get to the source right now. Crossing live to Grey Zone journalist Kit Klarenberg, who revealed the leaks and published the report. A daring move, Mr. Klarenberg. So pleased to get you on the program regarding this. Before we get started, I probably shouldn't even ask you this, but Kit, how the hell did you get your hands on this kind of information?
Well, sources and methods, but yeah, I mean, I shan't reveal anymore. But yeah, I mean, it's quite a treasure trove, isn't it?
It really is quite something. But here we go. I mean, it sounds like a pretty traditional playbook out of Langley, Virginia. Regime change at a length, using NGOs to cause discontent. We had regime change. You know, the leadership already stepped down a week ago. A hybrid strategy, perhaps against China and India as well. But the National Endowment for Democracy, Kit, talk to me about this. We know that NED has been involved in this kind of stuff before. What can you tell me?
Well, I mean, NED was founded in 1983 due to scandals surrounding the CIA, and it was explicitly a mechanism of bringing CIA covert action into the overt sphere. And its founders, at least initially, openly boasted about how they did the CIA's work openly. It typically operates hand in glove with the CIA, the world over. It's been involved in NED has been involved in sponsoring countless what's known as colour revolutions the world over. Initially, they boasted about this, but now they've kind of gone underground and they've removed all manner of incriminating information from their website. You used to be able to search, they used to have a grant search so you could see what they were funding and where in the world. That's gone now. And I think it's because increasingly governments and the general public are very well aware of the insidious and destructive role that NED plays.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just NED, is it? I mean, you've got other ones. Is it Democracy Now!, Freedom House? You know, they all sound so similar to each other. We remember the Arab Springs. We remember the colour revolutions. So here we go. It's another bout of regime change here. Talk to me about the proximity of Nepal to India and China. Why is that important, Kit?
Yeah, sure. So effectively, I mean, Nepal is this rather barren, mountainous landscape, although it does have a population of 30 million people. It's situated slap bang between India and China. China is a long time kind of bête noire of the US, and it's very, very clear from the emanations of congressional committees on foreign policy and defense that China is the number one enemy. There is no shift away from China at all, and there is a wider objective to encircle China militarily with friendly puppet governments. Now, India, of course, in recent years, has shifted away from the US and is carving a kind of independent path in its domestic and foreign policy, which the US is not very happy about. And Trump recently stated that India has been lost to China and Russia. So creating an irritant and installing a friendly government in Nepal serves a large number of geopolitical purposes.
Yeah.
And it's very, very interesting how quickly the media has moved on from what was effectively a violent military-backed coup, and yes, led to the installation via a Discord vote that only a few thousand people voted in, of an interim government. There are widespread calls now for a restoration of the country's monarchy, which ruled with an iron fist for most of Nepal's existence as a quote-unquote independent country in the wake of World War II. So it's quite clear that this palace revolution, which we were told was the work of independent, young, disaffected Gen Zers locally, has created a power vacuum that is going to be filled by a government, presumably, almost inevitably, much worse than that which preceded it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's hardly surprising these days anymore, Kit. Sorry to be such a cynic. But you mentioned the Discord poll. This is interesting to me. The Nepalese interim prime minister, the first prime minister in the world to be chosen through this so-called Discord poll, fewer than 10,000 votes even registered. Is that how democracy works, Kit?
Well, I mean, it's very, very, very odd. And even I've seen local Nepali journalists who support the quote unquote revolution have even admitted that this was quite a problematic means of electing a new leader. I mean, it's like using a Twitter poll. And as I mentioned, it's a country of 30 million people, and fewer than 10,000 people, or maybe there were bots and fake users behind this. It is completely unprecedented and highly unorthodox, to the extent that even the Western media has admitted that this is a bit problematic. But that's where we are with the state of quote unquote democracy these days. I mean. Look at what happened in Romania. We're honing in on a year to the day, I think, where Calin Georgescu was en route to win the presidential election on an anti-war, anti-NATO platform, and then they just local authorities just overturned the vote because the wrong candidate was going to win. And I warned at the time that we'd see a lot more of this, and nothing, in the spirit of cynicism, nothing has disabused me since of this view. Now, I think as well that we're seeing that there's an interesting parallel, like the Nepalese youth revolutionaries, NED trained and funded. They used a symbol taken from a Japanese manga comic as their logo, and we saw that logo crop up in Mexico recently, where there was again disaffected Gen Z protests against the elected government, when the president has an 80% approval rating, and we were told that this was a massive upsurge of organic disillusionment, when that again the people involved in this and the people promoting it are all on the US payroll.
Yeah, so, you said it right there. Sorry to jump in, I do apologize, but you said it right there. And it's so easy also to get these Gen Zs into a bus or an airplane and ship them wherever you need them to create social unrest and essentially inevitable regime change. Kit, So good to get you on the program. Kit Clarenberg, the Grey Zone journalist who's really pushing back against the mainstream narrative. So good to have you on. Thank you, sir.